most incredible thing happened where I felt ecstasy. And ecstasy, not like we know it from like sex or drugs, but true ecstasy, where I felt all this pressure lifting not only off my shoulders, but from inside my soul. I felt for the first time peace and relief and realized, oh my God, this is what we're really supposed to feel like as human beings.
Welcome to Life is the Game, hosted by yours truly, Alexandra Nicole Stone. Get ready to uncover the secrets to mastering your destiny, becoming the main character in your life, and embracing a life filled with meaning and joy. Ready? Let's play.
A quick note on imposter syndrome and kind of all the things that come along with it. I'm no more guilty than anybody else of having imposter syndrome. I've had everything ready for my podcast maybe about a month ago, and all of a sudden I've started doubting my abilities. Keep that in mind. I'm also the person who's saying, play life as a game, take risks, go on side quests, all those things. The point of that is that we're human and we're going to have these doubts and fears and all these sort of negative, unproductive things come to our mind. But we just have to remind ourselves of our purpose. Starting a podcast wasn't supposed to be this stressful, terrible thing. Starting a podcast is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be a way for me to network with people. It's supposed to be a way for me to talk. It's supposed to be a creative outlet. It's supposed to be a way for me to hope that even if I help one person in this world every single time that I make a podcast, then that's good. That's good enough for me. The other day, I went to my facial lady, Zeta, awesome lady, and we hadn't gone in a long time, maybe 6 months, and she's asking me, okay, hey, what have you been up to? And I'm like, oh, everything's been good. I'm launching my podcast. She's like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. What are you doing your podcast on? And I was like, oh, okay. My podcast is called Life is the Game. It's about becoming the main character of your life, taking control of your destiny, embracing sort of these game-like concepts like taking risks and going on side quests and embracing failure, because failure is what makes games exciting, right? If it was easy, you wouldn't remember that game. She's like, oh, that's a cool concept. What inspired you to do so? And then we proceeded to have this entire conversation where afterwards I was like, okay, this would be the perfect first podcast episode. So I'm just gonna pretend like I'm talking to Zeta and tell you why I've started this podcast. Looking at life as a game is something that's been in my life for quite a while now, maybe since I was about the time of 18. I've always been a gamer, but I wasn't looking at it as a philosophy when I was 18 years old. But I've recently, in the last year, started to really look at it as a philosophy and as sort of a guiding point, or as a guideline for the way that I choose to live my life, and as a way for me to make decisions and live a more authentic and joyful life and get out of my head, quite frankly, and just have more fun. Because when I'm overthinking something, I'm just asking myself, okay, what if life was a game? Last year, I had written a whole entire talk on what if life was a game. And I'd really got to flesh out those ideas and fleshing out concepts like, in games, we go on side quests. Those are like the best part of the games. That's my favorite part of the game, is building my character, getting the armor and weapons, finding, I don't know, 4 blue eggs to get a bag of Lucky Charms to go to get this one piece of armor, this special move. that was the whole game to me. I don't even think I've finished most games, but most of the games that I remember having the best time playing was because of those side quests. In reality, we're like obsessed with this fixed outcome. Oh, I have to do this and then that. It's about meeting a person, trying a job, falling out of love, moving to Peru. Those are the things that make up life and make them so interesting. I also talked about things like taking risks. In this reality, we've become really averse to taking risks. We're petrified by the idea of making a mistake, which is terrible because we kind of put this little invisible boundary around ourselves, this little safety net, and we don't want to get out of that comfort zone. But when we get out of our comfort zone is when we're delighted and exposed to new things, which become a catalyst for new ideas, for inspiration. Failure is another thing I talked about because in games we fail all the time. You just die, you come back to life, you die again. But those little deaths you experience in games is sort of what teaches you to get better. And sometimes we fail multiple times at the same exact thing until the lesson kicks in. It'll be something like, oh, I have to jump over this pit and I'm doing a double jump across the pit only to fall and die. And for some reason, I'll do it maybe 10 times before I'm like, okay, maybe this is not the way, right? Same thing goes in life. Maybe we've had bad partners and we've gotten in a couple of bad relationships, and then we're just like, okay, I have a pattern or I'm never going to fall in love. No, you've had a few bad relationships, you're going to have a good one too. After some time, you start noticing the patterns of your bad relationships, and you're okay. The next person, I want them to be different. And then you get to meet that different person, right? So, those are some of the concepts that I've been applying to my own life. And there's so many more other gamification concepts that we can apply to our lives to live life like a game and become the main character. And also, it's fun to think about yourself as a main character. We don't have to dress any type of way that society expects us to or do anything others expect us to. In a game, it's about what you expect, what you want. How are you going to build your character? I want you guys to all start thinking about your avatars. You're the main character in your life. It is exciting. How do you dress? How do you move through space? How do you talk? What's your energy like? Are you sneaky? Are you assertive? Are you sexy? You decide. It's your life. And guess what? Nothing is permanent. That's the best part. You realize everything is constantly changing. Some things I don't have control over, but the one thing that I do have control over is what am I going to do next? You have the choice of how you play, how you act, how you react to bad things happening. And sometimes those choices take some time to sit in, but you have that ultimate choice. And it's so exciting once you realize that. I don't have to keep doing things. I don't have to keep working at this miserable job for the rest of my life. I don't have to be in an unfruitful relationship. Or you mean I can just go on that trip? You mean I can ask how that person I've been having a crush on for 10 years? Ask him out. Hey, you might get rejected, true. You'll move on. But maybe they'll say yes. Maybe you'll start an amazing relationship. Maybe it's that one person that you match with on Bumble that you decide to have coffee with that ends up being your soulmate. But if you already project on that person that, oh my gosh, the last 50 Bumble coffee dates I had were terrible, so this one's going to be terrible too, you might miss out on meeting your soulmate. But I kind of want to pull it back to this conversation I had with my facial lady, Zeta. And she asked me, why did I really start the podcast? The trigger for the podcast was actually my trip to Peru back in November. I had not been planning on going to Peru at all for the last year, 2023. I actually decided it was about I don't know, September or October, where I had spent all year working and I had promised myself that, okay, every year you have to go on vacation. And the year was coming to a close and I had no vacation planned. I had no money saved up for a vacation or anything like that. And I was just thinking of where I'd like to go. I said, okay, I want to go to Costa Rica because beaches, ecotourism sounded like something that I really wanted to do. And I love nature. And I went and I talked to my acupuncturist who had recently been to Costa Rica. And he's like, hey, Costa Rica is a little bit more expensive than some people would think. It's quite commercialized. He said, have you thought about going to Peru? Because he's like, if you're going on a vacation by yourself, I think Peru would be a lot more cost effective. And he said, I have a guide there who can connect you with a shaman and you can do ayahuasca ceremony. I've always wanted to do ayahuasca, but I don't think the opportunity ever presented itself and I never really went searching for it. But I've listened to people talk about it. I'm deeply spiritual and I wanted to have that experience and see what it was like for myself because I think it's honestly something, no matter how many people talk about it, something you just can't really explain. 1 week later, I'm on the fence about it. Should I go to Peru? Should I not? I had a friend that was going to go with me. They ended up falling out. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going by myself. And I stopped and I asked myself, okay, what if life was a game? What would you do? I said, okay, if life was a game, I would just go to Peru. So I just went on and I just bought my ticket. I think I was having drinks with someone. And I was like, I'm buying my ticket right now. I didn't even do it on computer. I just did it on my phone. Checked out. Okay, tickets are bought now. I have to go. So then I got the information for the guide over there. I booked my stuff, booked the days with the shaman. I was so nervous. I was going there all by myself. Usually I'd traveled internationally, but I'd been going to Europe and I'd meet up somebody that I knew over there. It's just South America. It was a little bit different. I had a lot of interconnecting flights, whatever. And it was one of the best decisions that I had ever made in my entire life. Before I had gone to Peru, I had spent like 30 days cleansing my body. I'd been basically eating vegan or plant-based for 30 days before and not drinking and smoking and or anything toxifying my body in any way. I went to Lima first, spent a day there. I really wanted to have some ceviche because the ceviche looked amazing. I had some ceviche the first day, and then it's nighttime, and all right, my stomach's hurting a little bit, but I'm fine. My flight to Cusco was around, I don't know, it was quite early, I think 8 a.m. or something. So I had to wake around 5. But the whole night I had been tossing and turning, and something had given me food poisoning. I'm going to stop for a second and say that please don't be scared of ceviche. I don't think it's a ceviche that gave me food poisoning. Actually, I think I drank some tap water at a restaurant. But, anyways, got food poisoning. I'm on my flight to Cusco, just miserable. I think I was freaking out the person next to me. I was shaking back and forth. I think they thought I had COVID or something. I thought I was going to die on that plane. Not really die, but I was feeling quite terrible. And I remember the plane was landing and I get up to use the restroom and the woman's like, you have to sit back down because the plane is landing. And she gives me a paper bag. And I was like, I have to throw up. She's like, I'm sorry, ma'am, you have to sit down. I'm sitting down in my chair and gently weeping to myself, holding the bag in front of my face. Then, we land. I get to go to the bathroom, feeling better. I am now hit by altitude sickness in Cusco, and I have to go to my first ceremony, the Chulachaca ceremony, which is a cleansing ceremony. I meet my guide. He drives me up to the Chulachaca ceremony where we hike up this mountain, and I'm not feeling well, but I'm feeling well enough to do it. And Chulachaka ceremony is basically what you would imagine is sort of like a teepee with a sauna inside. And up there, I'm greeted by Roberto, Master Roberto, the shaman, who is now one of my favorite people on this earth just because he is so cool and magical and healing to be around. And we begin the ceremony with setting an intention of why I'm here. He sits down with me and he's like, "Why have you come to do the ceremony? Why did you come to Peru?" And I told him, "I've had over the last couple years some terrible things happen to me. I have had death in the family. I was stalked and attacked. I was chronically ill. And last year was the first year in my life where things started getting better. And I used to associate with the traumas and those negative things, but then I told him that I'm trying to move through that space. I want to let go of those that negative feelings and say, okay, that trauma happened to me. I understand. There's a certain degree of pain. I've done the work and I'm healed and I moved through it and now I'm ready. I'm ready for my freedom." I looked him in the eye. It's about saying goodbye to that and letting that go and saying hello to freedom, to true freedom, where that is no longer impacting my day to day, where I can just breathe easy and I'm finally ready to relive my life. And he said, "Okay, I can see it in your eyes that you're ready," which sounds really corny when you say it out loud, but when he says it to you, you feel seen. It was very wholesome. So we enter the Chula Chaka ceremony. It is quite hot, and you're shaking some tambourines, you're chanting, and you have this sort of chant that's kind of making you hyperventilate inside of this extremely hot, hot sauna. And I think we were doing this for a couple of hours. I'm not sure. Uh, I got to a point where halfway through the ceremony, I just had to lay down. I just remember Master Roberto putting some herbs on my stomach and uh, waking up kind of after this trance. I didn't pass out or anything, but I had just sort of, I had been going through a lot, let's just say that. And then the next day, I wake up, I'm feeling better. The altitude sickness is not so intense. I'm feeling much better with my stomach. And today is the day that I do ayahuasca. I've never done any research on what is ayahuasca like, this, and that. It's mostly just hearing stuff through the ether and through people and my friends and circles. And I'm just going through it with an open mind. I'm familiar with certain psychedelic experiences. Like, okay, this can't be so much different. We hike up, me, my guide, and Master Roberto, the three of us, up to this Inca ground where it's this plain and with a small Inca structure, like a wall over there. And you're basically overlooking all of Cusco. It's stunning. And the sky is just this pure, incredible shade of blue, like a blue sea in the sky with these huge marshmallowy white clouds. It is just the most picturesque sort of scenic location that we're doing the ceremony in. And I'm sitting with Master Roberto. He's preparing me. We're setting the intention with the medicine. He's playing some music and warns me, he's like, "This is not gonna be tasty. It's not a chocolate." And I drink the ayahuasca. It was not a tasty thing, and you have to sort of hold it down for a period of time. And you do expel it. Let's just say that in a very nice way. It does have to leave your body. And after having food poisoning for the day before, I definitely expelled that quite quickly. It was a bit of an interesting experience. But I will say this, it's not just like you're throwing up and then you're done. And don't get scared when I say these things, but it's sort of beyond that. You it feels like you're purging this muck, this ick that is deeply set inside of your body. He'll touch your back and sort of squeeze little parts of you or put like a tuning fork on your back, and you feel this like force lifting out of you, out of these deep confines from your body, and you're just expelling them. And that's when I really thought to myself, okay, this is why they call it a medicine, because it's taking all this, for lack of better words, crap, negative energy, negative emotions that you're harboring deep inside of your body, and it's making you expel them. We go through the process. I had a cup. I'm seeing some minor visuals, and then he asked me, do you want to have another glass? And I said, okay. I'm like, I'm going to throw up again, right? He said, yeah. I'm like, let's do it. And I drink the second glass, and this one I'm able to keep down far longer. After I had expelled this one, it's like I left this earth. It was almost an immediate transition into this alternate parallel dimension. And I just remember vaguely this sort of scene playing out in my head. And I remember there being sort of like this demon creature, beast, dog in my mind. And then I remember Roberto saying, tranquilo, tranquilo, and trying to calm me down. And I remembered there being a struggle of some sorts and then waking up. After the experience, I was at my Airbnb trying to sort of process everything, and I couldn't really recall. And then it started coming back to me as I was like, I really wanted to remember every single second of what had happened. And so what had happened is that your motor functions are completely turned off. And so you're just I'm just sort of laying in Roberto's arms, and he is guiding you through this whole experience. You're safe. Also, my guide is there, and you you are out of your body. I don't know. There's no other way to explain it, but you're out of your body. And I remember this beast in my mind was so agitated, snarling, like all those things. And Roberto was saying, tranquilo, like calm down, relax, you need love. And those things weren't necessarily making sense to me until I recall this moment in time where he kept saying, you need love, relax. And this, I would sense this beast and this plane in my mind starting to calm down and relax. And then all of a sudden it would come into this consciousness that it's relaxing, and it would get agitated, like, oh my God, no, I can't relax. And it would, it awakened. And as it awakened, I'm sitting up. I jump up abruptly, sitting up. And then I made the connection. Oh my gosh, this demon monster it's inside of me, is part of me. And when he was saying, tranquilo, relax, when he was saying, oh, you need love, he's telling me that I need to love this beast. And that this beast, this snarling, agitated beast, is like a physical manifestation of all my fear, all my anxiety, all my doubt. It's a physical manifestation of, I always have to be on and alert and aware because there's so many people counting on me. I had mentioned before, but I had gotten sick due to extreme burnout. I was a caretaker. I was a lot of things happening where there's a lot of people counting on me, and I felt like I couldn't let go. And then we went again into this sort of, me and Roberto, this struggle where he's trying to calm the beast. And I remember feeling inside when I would resist him this very carnal, this very horrible feeling of, I don't know, I wouldn't know what to compare with, almost death. Like it's a horrible feeling inside of your gut, like a clenching that you are so desperate to get rid of. And Roberto was like, no, no, don't go towards the bad. He said, go to the good. He said, peace and love. He said, go towards the good, surrender. These are the words that I could grasp, that I could remember. And at that point, I was surrendering, or the beast was surrendering, or we were surrendering out of sheer, it was the most carnal experience where it's like, I need to get away from this terrible, achy feeling. And I will do whatever you say to get rid of that. And what I had to do was just surrender and relax to get rid of that. And once I fully surrendered, the most incredible thing happened where I felt ecstasy. And ecstasy, not like we know it from like sex or drugs, but true ecstasy, where I felt all this pressure lifting not only off my shoulders, but from inside my soul. We don't even realize that when we are happy and everything's fine and dandy, we are holding tension deep inside of on a cellular level. And I felt that all get eradicated from me. And this vision in my mind, which was dark, all of a sudden turned light, and this beast was vomiting, almost this purging this stuff out. And I felt for the first time peace and relief, and realized, oh my God, this is what we're really supposed to feel like as human beings. We aren't supposed to be miserable. We are supposed to feel this ecstasy. This is what it means to live. This is what we're supposed to feel like. And then I realized that we are the ones who are causing all of our suffering. I might lose some people on that, but we are responsible for all the suffering that we are experiencing. It's all us. And then I also realized that nothing matters in the most, not in a hedonistic way, but nothing is worth sacrificing my peace. Nothing is that important that I should be torturing and tormenting myself and be miserable about. When you see someone like Master Roberto just sitting in the mountains, happy as a dog, just incredible person, and you see that that's a reality that's possible. I'm not saying you have to be him, but when you see someone like that, who is like a salt of the earth person that doesn't have all the opulence that we may have in a place like Los Angeles, that is just so happy and so connected to earth and so connected to humanity, and you realize that that is possible and that is an option for us. It doesn't necessarily have to be like that, but that is an option for us. And yet here, when we have everything, we're in a place like LA, we have cars, we have food, we have glitz and glamour, and more than anyone can ask. I remember going to Master Roberto's house. He hosted me. He said, relax a little bit after the ceremony. And it was literally this tiny little room uh, where he was, preparing some of the plant medicines, and he had enough just for a bed mat and then some extra space beside it. And this man hosted me. He opened his home to me. He brought his heater out so I can stay warm. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, like we have so much that we take for granted in this world. And we're so miserable when we have everything and so much to be grateful for. Coming back from that experience, it made me realize that I have nothing to lose. I have only everything to gain by going out there and putting myself out there. And starting this podcast is a way for me to share that message of playing life as a game. Because if I didn't go to Peru and didn't have that experience, I would have been missing out on something so amazing. And not only was just the ayahuasca experience, but the following day we had gone and we went through a hike through the moon temples, like 7 hours through Inca ground, and hearing his personal histories and the connection to earth and the connection to the people and to the indigenous people. I felt so connected, and that was so important to me. Coming back with that experience and that perspective really changed me. And the funny thing was that I didn't think I was brave or anything for going and doing those things. I was just like, this seems like something really cool to do. And if I was play a game, I would do it. But as I was sharing, there's some other American tourists, whatever, that I meet along the way, when you're a solo traveler, you just sort of kind of start talking to people. But the crazy thing that happened is that as I was talking to people and telling them, I came by myself, I'd kind of gone and done these things, they're like, oh my gosh, you are so brave. And I didn't think I was brave. It wasn't easy. I didn't think I was not brave, but I guess I was brave. I've always wanted to travel alone. If I had to wait on other people, then I would never get to travel. And this is an experience that I really wanted to have, and I went for it. And then other women were like, "Oh, I've heard terrible tales of women getting date raped on ayahuasca," and I didn't even know that was a thing. And I came back here sort of inspired by that whole experience, and then just kind of this feedback that I had. And I said, okay, not only am I going to start my podcast, which is going to be telling these amazing stories of living life on your own terms and being the main character and going on adventures and side quests, but also the beautiful byproduct to that is that if I didn't go there, well, I wouldn't have got inspired for the new sort of venture that I want to start, which is called the Brave Goddess Project, where I help solo female travelers have these sort of transformative, deeply spiritual experiences, and that maybe they otherwise wouldn't have because maybe they didn't have friends that are available or on the same financial situation in order to have those experiences. Because I think anyone who wants to have this experience should be able to have it so long as they honor the people who are creating that experiences for them. And by that I mean the shamans and the locals and all those things. So I felt so regenerated and so inspired when I returned from this trip. And if I'm being honest, the high does wear off. You come back to reality, you start working, you start all these things, and you start coming off that cloud, you start leaving that sort of astral realm and getting bogged down with, oh my God, like I have all these things to do, or I might lose my job, or there's these tensions, or this stuff happening in the economy, I need money. Those things start bombarding you. But I also felt this feeling after where I was so in tune with myself that I felt such dissonance when working and sitting at my desk, which I still do, right? But it was just something, a perspective that I had where I felt such a dissonance between what I was doing for my day job or what I was doing in my life versus where I wanted to be. And I was like, this is not serving who I am. And so starting the podcast is the first step that I can take to living the life that I wanted to live. And for me, that's being a public speaker, helping others, meeting other really interesting people. Those are things that I've always wanted to do. So there was no other choice. I realized life is too short. Nothing really matters. Like nothing is really that serious, right? I've overcome so much hardship, being stalked, attacked, death, all those things, that there's no reason for me not to try this. and just have fun and succeed. And so that's why I'm here today and starting the Life is the Game podcast that I hope you enjoy and that you share and that you gain value from. And if you can just do one thing after listening to this podcast is next time you have a decision, no matter how big or small, stop and ask yourself, what would I do if my life was a game? Ready? Let's play.